So it's been really highly requested that I do a fashion library video. I'm not gonna lie, I don't have the most fashion books ever. They're not all specifically helpful to my course, but these are the books that I do have under request, and that's about it. I'm not really the best at explaining things. I thought I would just show you the books that I have in my little fashion library, because even if it only gives you a little bit of inspiration, a little bit is better than nothing. So this might be sort of like a heads up of which kind of books you can get, and obviously giving you a little look through the book. So I'm going to jump straight into it with the books, and I'll make sure that I write the names of them down below so that you can get them if you like the look of them. So the first book is the most cliche of all, which is It by Alexa Chung. I think everyone in the world has this book. I kind of got it because I think of her as a style icon, and partly just because I really wanted to read it. This book is actually one of my absolute favourites. It's got loads of picture pages, and it's just got her quirky little notes and things like that. It's a really just informative book, and it kind of gives light on her as a person as well as a style icon. This I think is about $16.99 in Urban Outfitters, but it's definitely worth getting if you just wanted a book for fashion, not necessarily for fashion design. The next book is the Fashion Resources book for menswear. It's kind of like how to research menswear, which I really needed for my course, so this comes in really useful, and it's got like brand stuff in there as well, so it's just a really informative book. It's got like garment biographies, research and inspirations, research processes, case studies of brands. It's got a bit of illustration, it's got a bit of catwalk. The next book is The World According to Karl, which is a book about Karl Lagerfeld, who is the head of Chanel, if you didn't know. This is kind of not really a fashion book, it's just like a quote book, but this is all his different quotes on different things. So it's got like quotes on life, quotes on fashion, quotes on celebrity, just random things, and each section is laid out really nicely. They've all got random little pictures and things. It's just a really good book to flick through. I find this quite good if I want like a quote that I can put on Twitter or something, and it's just really cool to see like Karl's perspective on life. The next book is the first one I ever actually got to do with fashion, which is the Fashion Illustration 100 Years Of. This is probably my most flicked through book because it's really good for getting research images, and it's good if I'm a bit stuck on how I could best illustrate my collection because it gives me quite a few different ideas. I'm not really sure how to explain it best. Unless you study fashion, you probably won't understand, but there's like 100 different ways to illustrate, and it just gives you a really cool stylized version as well as some more simplistic ways to illustrate throughout the last 100 years. So there's lots of different fashions in here, lots of menswear, women's wear, etc. It's just a really good book if you study fashion and you are into illustration and need illustrations, or you just want to have a little flick through. The next book will probably only help you if you do menswear. It's the Practical Guide to Pattern Making for Fashion Designers Menswear. This is pretty much a book of how to make basic menswear, different styles, and it's really informative, but like I said, it's only probably useful if you do menswear. It's got ways to make different garments, it talks you through the steps, it tells you about measurements and how to measure men and things like that. This is basically my gospel when I am doing a project. It's my first point of call if I am thinking of making, say, something hooded or a jacket or a pocket of a certain type or trousers of a certain style or whatever. This is more than likely the book I go to first for help with doing that. The next book is Icons of Men's Style. This is one that I got for Christmas this year, and it's one of the newest ones and most flicked through recently. This is basically what I thought would be a book of men that are iconic to men's fashion, but it's not. It's like different garments and things, so it's got like all these different things, so like the tweed jacket, which was obviously a big thing in men's fashion. It's got different things like the desert boots. Anything that was iconic and is a staple to a man's wardrobe is in this book, and it's really good to flick through. It's got back from the origins, it's got things about different brands that made it popular and things like that. It's just a really good book. So the next book is What We Wore. This book's really interesting. It's basically a guy who did an exhibition and asked people to bring along pictures of themselves for the last few years and through like specific fashion decades, and he's documented it all in this book with the people's personal images, and there's descriptions about each image, there's talk throughs about that kind of era, like it's all grouped into eras, and it's just really, really cool. I'm actually loving this. It's just like the kind of pictures your parents show you when they're having a little reminisce, and it's just such a fun book to look through. I love looking at all the pictures because I just think it's so interesting, and there's all like about different shops and things that people used to go into and what it was like at the time, the kind of things they used to get up to. This is quite useful for a fashion design course because it gives you references in different eras. So for example, I'm studying the late 80s at the moment for my acid house project, and this has got a lot of pictures of people in that era, which are obviously personal pictures, so they're a bit more harder to come by. The next book is Contemporary Menswear, which is a book featuring lots of different brands that help to make menswear the way it is today. It's a lot more independent brands and things that you may not necessarily have heard of, but this is so interesting for my course because it's just got so much in there, and it's got loads of lookbooks, pictures about the brand, about what they're about, their ethics, things like that. It's such an interesting book, and this is going to come in so useful for me for internships because I can find brands in here that may not necessarily be well known that I could intern with. The very last book is my absolute favourite of the collection, which is Hello, My Name is Paul Smith. If you saw my Christmas video, you'd know that I got this off my grandparents, and he is my absolute favourite designer. This book is pretty much my favourite. It's like my Bible. This book is about Paul Smith, his life as a fashion designer, all about his shops worldwide, his clothes, his work ethics. It's got all his little scribbled notes, his studio pictures, things like that. It's a really interesting read if you read it cover to cover like I am planning on, but if not, then it's just a good thing to flip through and find out about him and his work. I recommend getting this book even if you don't actually want to study fashion because it's such a good one to just look through. That is my fashion library. I know this is quite a specific video because not many people actually want a fashion library or care for a fashion library, but I know that quite a lot of my viewers, watchers, subscribers are people who study fashion design and have followed my journey through my education story and my question and answers videos and my portfolio tips, things like that. So I thought it would just be a nice little video for that kind of community to enjoy because I don't give you guys much credit and I really should. But thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.